for the different estates we will go through during this tasting. The second point you will be invited to focus on will be the stylistic revolution. Definitely the wine, and specifically the left bank of Bordeaux, is changing a little bit the approach in terms of research for aging, for fine-tuning in terms of tannin. The reflection also will be along the grape varietals. You will see that there is a carbonization, or some more striking anecdote. You will learn, we hope so, a lot of things through this masterclass. And the last probably will be an invitation to focus on what you like and why you like it. Because I definitely think that for a wine lover, for a sommelier, or for a consumer, what is important is to understand what makes you happy through a glass of wine. And I have my opinion. We will try to do not judge the appearances, because we will compare two vintages on the 4 estates. 2016, that you probably have in mind as one of the greatest harvests from the last decade, and 2020. And we will observe those two vintages, we will judge them, compare them, by catching all the information: tannin, structure, alcohol, feeling of sweetness, caliber of the tannin. So it's going to be something quite interesting if you're looking for the small details that makes the huge difference. So thank you for your attention. I will give the mic to Augustin, which will be
thank you, Manuel.
Introduce you to this masterclass, and I will be back in the next coming minutes to commend the wine. Thank you.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everybody. As you all know, we love to blend grapes in Bordeaux. So today we have a blend, a team of blend from Burgundy, because Manuel is coming from Burgundy, and all of us coming directly from Bordeaux. So you have Manuel, who is best sommelier of France in 2008, and Meilleur Ouvriers de France in 2011. Emmanuel Cruse, co-owner of Château d'Issant, and general director for the 4 estates, and Eric Pelon, who is here also representing Château d'Issant, director, Christophe Congé from La Font-Rocher, and Vincent Bach-Gabrielsen. What we will try to do, we'll try to make as short as possible, because we hope that you will have a lot of questions for us at the end, and we'll do as best as possible. So as Manuel was just mentioning, today the objective of this masterclass is to do a wine trip in Bordeaux from north to south in the Médoc, starting with Saint-Estèphe, Pauillac, and then Margaux, with 2 vintages, as you described earlier on. Talking about the vintage?
Sure. First, to compare the wines you'll go through, little focus on what were each vintage. 2016, to be honest with you, for people who remind the year, this is a kind of miracle. Miracle, because there were many during the spring period, a lot of pressure, a lot of rain, a lot of transpiration sometimes for many wine growers. You know, probably in France there were some frost also. But the result from this harvest was really striking. From Châteauneuf-du-Pape to Champagne, for what is born in Burgundy or even in Bordeaux, we have a lovely harvest. What will be interesting to see, you have the bullet point, and I'll let you go through the bullet point, but is that the length of the harvest is totally different between 2016 and 2020. You will observe through the technical sheets coming right after that the harvest period for most of the property will be something like 15 days for 2020, and even 4 weeks for 2016. There's at least 20 days also of difference because 2016 is more wine from October, end of September, beginning of October. 2020 is an earlier harvest. But it doesn't mean that 2020 is a warm vintage. It's a hot vintage, but it's not a warm vintage. So it will be interesting to compare them and to go through this comparison.
So now, what is Vignobles Cruse Lorenzetti means? In fact, it's the gathering of two families. One, the family Cruse, in Bordeaux now for more than 2 centuries, originally wine merchant, as we call in Bordeaux, negociants. And as many wine merchants in Bordeaux also wanted to make sure that to guarantee the sourcing of wine to their customers all around the world. So also owners of different estates such as Pontet-Canet, Giscourt, Rosan-Seglas, so many different estates in the Médoc. And in 1945, they bought also Château d'Isson. Now, talking about the Lorenzetti family, Jackie Lorenzetti arrived 15 years ago. He did the famous gastronomic school of EHL, École Hôtelière de Lausanne in Switzerland in the 70s, and decided after a big entrepreneurship in the real estate business to go back with his family in Bordeaux, because his wife is originally from Bordeaux, and to go back in Bordeaux. And in 2008, they fell in love with one first estate, Château Lillian-la-Douce, that you will have just in front of it on the top left. All right, and these are the 4 chateaux, the order of the tasting that we are going to do today, which means Lillian-la-Douce first in Saint-Estèphe, which has been acquired in 2008 by the Lorenzetti family. Then Château Lafon-Rocher, our new baby, since the end of 2021, acquired. And after going a little bit more south in Pédesclos, in Pauillac, classified growth also, since 2009, and Lafon-Rocher, the Cruse family, and the Lorenzetti at Château d'Isson, since 2013. So as we decided, as we described it already, we are going to go to start with Lillian-la-Douce. Lillian-la-Douce is in Saint-Estèphe. Saint-Estèphe is a unique terroir, a little bit slopey. For some of you who have probably run the Médoc marathon, you can feel it when you arrive in Saint-Estèphe, because there is a nice hill going towards Cos d'Estournel. And Château Lillian-la-Douce has always been cru bourgeois. Cru bourgeois since the beginning, since 1932. And very recently, we wanted to have again this hierarchy between cru bourgeois supérieur, and cru bourgeois exceptional. And since the vintage 2018, Château Lillian-la-Douce is cru bourgeois exceptional with 13 others neighbors. So, and the classification is for 5 years. So Château Lillian-la-Douce has always been a hard stopper. Hard stopper, starting, of course, Bordeaux is making wine for a few centuries, and because it used to be the place owned by the Seigneur of Lafitte back in the 16th century, sorry. And it was a heartbreak for them, and also a heartbreak now for the family Lorenzetti, because it's really where the story started for them in Bordeaux. Now, what is magic in Bordeaux, what is magic in Saint-Estèphe, is the heterogeneity of the soil, the diversity of soil we have in the terroir. You all know these maps, but we are also all geek about maps. You can see all these different colors represent the diversity of the terroir. And all the red parcels represent the vineyard of Château Lillian-la-Douce. So the vineyard stretched out from the south, from Cos d'Estournel, up to the north to Château Calon-Ségur, classified growth, on the plateau, with this amazing, of course, gravel. We are in the Médoc, but amazing clay, and you will see that it has an influence in the blend of Lillian-la-Douce, and which will bring flesh, but Manuel will speak about that much better than I do. And what is very important for all our estate is to, of course, respect our terroir, our soil, our subsoil, and making sure that we have a very good viticulture approach. So Château Lillian-la-Douce, you have seen the plots that can be a little bit perhaps like they can have in Burgundy, but with a lot of a big challenge to convert the vineyard into organic, so we'll be certified in 24, sorry. And because when we speak about terroir, it's the vineyard, but also the people, all the dream team that we have at Château Lillian-la-Douce, of course, the family Lorenzetti, with already the daughter coming and getting involved in in the estates. Vincent Bash-Gabrielsen, who is part of the story since the beginning in 2008, and all the team. As you can recognize, the black and white picture is Eric Boisneau. Eric Boisneau is the consultant winemaker, really specialist of the Médoc and specialist of the Cabernet Sauvignon. It's very a privilege for us to have him with us for all the 4 different estates. And for some of you who participate this morning to Dom Pérignon, during the study that they've made, they were saying that 77% of the people, the consumer in restaurants, are looking for anecdotes from the sommelier. So we say, why not bringing some few anecdotes for each chateau? This is the map. You have all in front of you a map done by Alessandro Masnaghetti, Italian. It's a very great map, which will show you all the different plots of the classified growth in the Médoc, Saint-Julien, Pauillac, and Saint-Estèphe. And as you can see here, if we focus a little bit on this, there is a black dot. The black dot is where the Chateau Lilian-la-Douce is located. But what is it? What can you see in front of the windows of Lilian-la-Douce? You have a plot of Lafite Rothschild. But come on, we are in Saint-Estèphe, not in Pauillac. But in fact, it's also because Lafite Rothschild always had this plot even before the creation of the appellations, of the AOC. And because, as you can see, it has been only created in 1936, and a little bit later for Margaux appellation. And from what I heard, I'm not, but...
Saskia de Rothschild said that this plot comes straight to the first wine.
Almost every year.
Almost every year.
And, and just, yes, time for tasting.
Yes, we will go through this to the tasting of the 2 vintages. Of course, I will not spend so much time to comment the fragrance. You're some of the best sommelier in the world, and you don't need my help to feel if there's some cassis or plum, whatever. What is interesting to compare in these 2 vintages, of course, the date of harvest, the balance, and of course, and specifically in the Lilian-la-Douce, because this is probably one of the biggest change of the 4 states you will go through. The proportion of Merlot changed definitely. In the 2020, you'll feel more Cabernet Sauvignon, and the 2016 you have more Merlot, which will lead the sensation and the texture. What is exciting to see that there is more and more Cabernet in this wine region, because the goal is not to ripe quickly. The goal is to get a really fine balance at 13 or 13.5% of alcohol. We all know that when there is more alcohol, we are more pumping the wood, we are more pumping the tannin. So when we want to fine-tune the multi-layered sensation of great terroir of Saint-Estèphe or Pauillac or whatever, when you are at this kind of maturity, you reach more precision. So the first one, 2016, will show a little bit of evolution. Sorry? Oh, so sorry, yes. Number 1 is number 1, Lilian-la-Douce.
16.
16. Number 1, Lilian-la-Douce, 16, all right?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, number 2 is 20.
Exactly, we will go through.
Yeah, sorry.
Exactly.
It will be on your left,
It
Chateau
will be
d'Isson,
the
16,
end.
and Chateau d'Isson, 20 on
We
your
will go
right.
from this way, like a
circle.
like a clock, okay? Pardon? J'ai pas compris ce que vous aviez dit.
No. We start with
number 1.
We start
Okay.
with number 1.
Number 1 is
normally.
2016 Lilian. Okay? And number 2 is 2020 Lilian-la-Douce. Okay? Simple. So the 2016 shows, as you probably smell, small signs of evolution. This is the beginning of the evolution for this wine. It has a little touch of the oak, which probably you will not less feel in the 2020. So I invite you to compare them side by side, because it's interesting to see the approach, the vision onto the aging. What is really, and this is the beginning of the demonstration, but through this, the next step of the chateau, you will see that there is an evolution, a stylistic evolution onto the aging process. You'll see that the texture is a bit more. You had more acidity in the 2016 harvest, right? 2020 is a earlier harvest with less acidity, but I would say more fruitiness. I would say more gentleness. The texture are slightly different, definitely. Behind the violet, the fruit-forward sensation, you have this on the 2020, a bit more sharp sensation. We still have, and this is probably the signature of Lilian Ladouis. Lilian Ladouis, just to come back, this is a vision. This is a kind of expression of Saint-Estèphe. The goal is not to produce Grand Cru classé and a very powerful. We need to understand that this is a kind of a research for Lilian Ladouis to provide a wine with a gentle texture. Even on the youth, you can already enjoy it on its youth. And this is more everyday, friendly wine. You catch the information probably in the glass. We are not looking for the same thing than in the wine coming right after. Okay, so the difference between the two for me are really striking. Not the same level of acidity, not the same construction of tannin, and also definitely less sensation of oak. More florality, more drinkability for me in the 2020. And the 2016, even if on the paper everyone would have bet on this vintage for most of the wine we will go through, for me it has a huge character, huge sensation of freshness, huge sensation of tannin. So it's a wine that definitely deserves a little bit of food. But from I hope you catch the difference and probably the different vision of the construction of the wine between those two vintages. The alcohol substance for the two wines will be the same, but when you will switch to the Lafon Rocher, you'll see that the construction is different. The 2016 was even more structured in terms of alcohol.
So perhaps we can move progressively to Château Lafon Rocher. So Château Lafon Rocher is part of the very unique club in Bordeaux, the famous 1855 classification. You all know that only 61 chateaux have been classified in red wines, without forgetting our friends from Sauternes and Barsac. And Château Lafon Rocher is the fourth classified growth in Saint-Estèphe. So for us, it's the golden jewel of Saint-Estèphe, not only because of the color of the chateau itself, which is a beautiful Tuscan yellow, but also because we have a unique terroir, and you will see that on your map in front of you. It's a single vineyard, 45 hectares of a single vineyard, surrounding all the chateau, which is the historical vineyard, actually. And, of course, we are in the Médoc, so in the Médoc, it's wonderful to have gravel, but what we have when we did big holes in the vineyard, we realized that, guess what? We had clay, but we had also blue clay. And blue clay is something unique that normally you can find more often on the right bank in Pomerol, Petrus, of course. But this blue clay is amazing because it's like a sponge, as you all know, and retain the water and really help avoiding hydric stress and bringing balance that you were talking about, which is very important also to produce wine. So the dream team, as we are talking about blue clay, the Tesseron family, they brought in this adventure. This guy on the left, his name is Jean-Claude Berrouet. Jean-Claude Berrouet was the winemaker at Petrus. So he's a consultant winemaker at Lafon Rocher for the vintage 2020 and 2016. And also, only starting in 2020, and this is very exclusive to us, we have another guy, Eric Boisneau. So it's we have on one side the expert of the right bank and Merlot, and on the other side the expert of the left bank, Cabernet Sauvignon. So it's clearly a great team. And of course, more recently, we have had the chance to have Christophe Congé, who joined us, Christophe Congé spent 22 years at Lafite Rothschild and Duarmillon as a winemaker, and is bringing now a lot of expertise in working in details from the vineyard up to the wine, and all the rest, of course, the family Lorenzetti and the expertise of Mr. Cruse. And here, as we are all talking about climate change or things like that, and we have been in the past 2 decades, since 2000, early 2000, having a lot of warm vintages, warm summers, and it was important for us to help the vines to breathe a little bit, and in order to do that, it has been implemented a huge agroecological plan, planting trees, planting edges. So on the map on your left, you can see all the different lines, it's bushes and edges to bring and develop biodiversity, very important. And also planting grass in between the vines in order to step by step move towards organic also. And in 2024 will be the first Grand Cru classé in Saint-Estèphe certified organic. So just a quick anecdote for La Rocher. Some of you probably have known the chateau when it was all gray like this, and but the previous owner, Michel Tesseron, was a little bit upset because to not see his chateau when he was arriving by car in Saint-Estèphe. So he decided one summer to try 3 different kind of painting, green, yellow, and red. And you know the answer. He picked the yellow, Tuscan yellow color, which is great because for all of us, I think it seems like it has been like that for ages, but it's only starting in 2000. So the 2 wines, Chateau Lafon Rocher and Peyrondet Lafon Rocher, are with yellow color label since 2000, and which is great. Probably we heard there were a lot of car accidents on the road when we were at that time. Because all the neighborhood was thinking what's going on there, but finally everybody is happy and it's time for tasting.
Yeah. So we will go through the 2016 Lafon Rocher. Of course, this is probably the most Pauillac style you can get from Saint-Estèphe, definitely. First, geographically speaking, of course. Second, the proportion of carb. And third, as a sensation. We'll go through the 2016. You'll go through this much more expressive expression of the Cabernet Sauvignon, you know, with this sweet pepper sensation, powder of Espelette, dark plum, and cassis. But we have this kind of spiciness, which reminds some sensation of Pauillac more than Saint-Estèphe, from what I had the chance to compare. On the palate, 2016 has character, definitely. Firm and a lovely tannin. But the fruit is, when you compare it to the 2020, you'll see that something happened in the 2020. Not necessarily in terms of aroma, because we cannot compare the aroma of 2 wines which are 4 years different. But by the texture, the fruit, and the length of the fruit is much more important on the 2020, in my opinion. Little mistake, right?
Yeah, sorry. There is. Thank you for this comment. There is one mistake, in fact, in this in the booklet. It's so all the proper and correct information are on the screen.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So the 2020 will show something different. You will always get this character, the mid palate to the end palate. The characteristic of the tannin will remind more of Saint-Estèphe, but in the expression of the cab and the feeling of the cab through the glass, I definitely have more information from Pauillac. What I like to highlight is that in terms of sensation and oak, and I would say in terms of fine-tuning of the juice, there is a gap between the 2 wines for me. And it's probably the co-working between this team and those 2 great winemakers, Jean-Claude Berrouet and Eric Boisseneau, which has been working on this expression. As you probably see also, there's the picking time is different, and this is a September harvest for 2020 and an October harvest for 2016. So probably not the same construction of tannin and not necessarily the same construction of structure as well. I don't know where is going your hurt in terms of balance, but in my opinion, the gain of the 2020 is more refinement, it's more florality, is more elegance, and I have a better dimension in terms of dry extract and fruit in the 2020, even if the 2016 is very drinkable.
Yeah, and very often we hesitate sometimes to enjoy young vintages, but
yeah.
So it's working. No. Or it's not. So let's talk about, thank you. Let's talk about Château Pédesclos now. So we are moving a little bit more south, Pauillac appellation. As you all know, Pauillac is a magical appellation with 3 first classified growths out of 5, Lafite, Mouton and Latour. And as we can see on this map, it's very well located. It's close to the estuary of the Gironde, which is really a very important aspect, and our friends from Bordeaux already discussed it. But Château Pédesclos is the 5th classified growth in 1855. And it's good because the chateau was created in 1810, so just few decades before this magical classification. And this is the way the Château Pédesclos was when we arrived, okay? And this is how it is now. So a little change, because it was a great terroir, outstanding terroir in Pauillac, but a sleeping beauty. So Jackie Lorenzetti, when he arrived in 2009, decided to come to Bordeaux, and at Château Pédesclos decided to first. It was very important for him to initiate the work in the vineyard first, because it's the most important. And when the job was done in the vineyard of initiating all this restructuration, to do a magical cellar. Well, you will see it in a few minutes, I hope. But it's really outstanding cellar, gravity feed winery, and in fact all the terroir is today 52 hectares of vineyard. The historical terroir is close to the estuary, as I mentioned. We had the opportunity to have 2 very interesting additional plots. Thank you. But the remote is not working. So if we can move to the next, thank you. So here on this map, when we arrived, the first question was to do a lot of holes in the vineyard to identify the soil and the subsoil. We identified the team, Vincent and his team identified up to 19 different kind of soil. All the yellow is different kind of perrosol. So the most important work was to adapt the most suitable grape varietals according to the soil type we have in the vineyard. So very complex soil, and that's the magic of Bordeaux too. And if we can go to the next slide. Thank you. Voilà. As Manuel was mentioning, the idea was also to move towards, because we love to invent words, towards Cabernization. Cabernization, why? Because as you can see on this slide, we moved from 43% of Cabernet Sauvignon in the vineyard when we arrived, globally in 2010, up to more than 60%, 62% to be precise, up to date. So as you can see on this slide, when the job was done in the vineyard to restructure, the idea was to bring, to ask Jean-Michel Villemotte, a very famous French architect who had already one experience of building the winery of Cos d'Estournel in Saint-Estèphe, to design Château Pédesclos. So very modern winery, as you can see. And since 2014, this is our new winery, full gravity. But you will see a little bit more about it in the next slide, please. If we'll do the... now
yes.
We are moving to 5. 5 will be 16,
yes.
And 6 will be 20 of Pédesclos. Yes. So this is inside the winery. It's very outstanding winery, glassware all around. So for all the team of Vincent, it's great for every day. They have at 360 degrees the view of the vineyard from winter to summer. And what is magic is we have these double tanks. They all look the same on the picture, but in fact we have 52 double tanks. They all have different shape, different capacity in order to really adapt to each plot of the vineyard and maintain the identity of each plot as much as possible. If we can go next. To respect the gravity, we have four elevators tanks that are really respecting the gravity, bringing the juice from the lower tank and bring it back to the upper tank in order to have very gentle and very respected vinification. And underground, as you will see in a few minutes, underground we have the aging cellar, which is we like tradition, but we have also some always questioning ourselves to improve the aging potential, the aging of our wines. And we are at the present stage also tasting amphoras from Italy and from France since 2 different vintages, the last 2 vintages. If we go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So also, when we arrived, it was important to bring back life to the soil, as we described many times, but we did it step by step. So all the work we have done since now starting 2012, we started to initiate organic, biodynamic, and conventional farming in different places in the vineyard, comparing blind every year, blind tasting, and as soon as we were convinced that organic was the right path, the right way, we took the decision in 2009 to move towards certification. And the last vintage that we harvested, and Vincent and his team harvested few months ago, and already blended. It's going to be the first vintage certified organic. Now next, voilà, behind the wine, the dream team, young team, also very with full of energy, and also helping us to question ourselves every day. Vincent is there, that you have seen already on the picture of Lilian Ladouis, and Audrey, the winemaker, and again also Eric Boisneau, part of the team. Next, please, thank you. And a little anecdote. So Vincent, when he arrived with started the discussion with the architect, he said, okay, why don't we use the natural slope of the vineyard, all right, to make a big hole and build the winery. So if we go to the next slide, this is they did it this way. So we welcome the harvest on the upper platform, double tanks for vinification with the elevators that you can see right in the middle, and underground, perfect ideal conditions for aging the wine. And next, please.
So a few words on the 2016 and 2020 right after on this one. First, yeah, thank you. So, okay, the 2016 would be first an invitation to compare the structure and the tannin, where are positioned the tannin on the palate. For me, they are much more powdery and situated in the mid palate. The concentration is not exactly the same, and the sensation are different. It's interesting to compare, of course, the balance of the 2 wines in terms of proportion of grape. Less alcohol in the 2020. It means that it was a early vintage, but not that warm. You will feel it in terms of sensation. But on the nose of the 2016, I have a lot of dried herbs, a bit of spiciness, which is more a signature of Pauillac in my opinion, and a little bit of evolution in this 2016 vintage. What I like to appreciate in the 2020 it's of course it's more simple in terms of preposition, but in terms of interaction between fruit and wood, we have the same proportion almost of new oak, but it doesn't show the same result. And it's interesting we were discussing with the team of Pedesclos. They had a vision into some tests with different wood, different approach, different origin, different barrel producers, and this is a reflection which is all around in the region. We don't want to build the same construction, not the same finish, not the same terroir expression through the new vintages in this region. I would like to highlight the fact that I am much more impressed by this kind of vintage like 2020 than in some very warm vintage, because we observe that through the aging, even through the years, most of the time the middle vintage or sometimes the poor vintages age very well in a very classic Bordeaux style, instead of the 2005 or 2010, or which are sometimes, or 2009, showing a lot, much more on the youth, but with a totally different way of evolution. And as a French palate, as a very European palate, I'm much more comfortable with this kind of balance, because I think we are more in the signature of this terroir. Okay.
Yeah. So, moving much more south. So this the vineyard of Château d'Isson won't appear on the map that you all have now, because it's, as you can see here, it's much more south, closer to Bordeaux, but also very close to the estuary, the Gironde. And Château d'Isson is a third classified growth in 1855 classification. But it's probably one of the oldest estate, oldest chateau in Margaux, but also in Bordeaux. The castle that you can see behind us, and it's funny to pass from the very modern chateau that you have seen with Château Pédesclos now to a very historical, you feel getting back to the Middle Age with Château d'Isson. You have this beautiful romantic chateau with the moat surrounding it, which has been rebuilt, I say rebuilt, in 1626. So in 2026, I have a bad news for you, Emmanuel. We'll have to celebrate a big party at Château d'Isson to celebrate the 400 years anniversary. But the chateau is really beautiful. Unfortunately, the owner died when the chateau was rebuilt, and his wife, the widow of Château d'Isson, decided she was here to handle the vineyard. And guess what? She had a very, very good idea and very clever idea, and we thank her every year, every day, and I'm sure you can ask Eric, it's the same story. Because she has built, like you often have in Burgundy, clos. So she built a very big stone wall, because we had a single vineyard, we have a single vineyard at Château d'Isson, a very big stone wall in 1644. 1644. And you only have 4 classified growths in the Médoc who have clos like this. And it's funny, 1 per appellation. Calon-Ségur in Saint-Estèphe, Château Latour in Pauillac, Château Léoville-Lascaz in Saint-Julien, and Château d'Isson in Margaux. And this is a very, very old one. And the family Cruse arrived in 1945, right after the Second World War. And the vineyard was only 3 hectares of vines were planted, only. And his grandparents restructured the vineyard and actually vinified the first vintages. If you have a bottle of 1945 of Château d'Isson in your cellar, it was vinified at Rosan-Segla, actually, which was still owned by the Cruse family. And they restructured the vineyard all across these 3 generations. It's a beautiful vineyard inside the clos with beautiful slopes, gravel, of course. We are in the Médoc, but clay very deep in the subsoil to maintain the freshness. Again, I think we are all map geek here, so it was important to show you the map of Margaux appellation, 1,500 hectares, and with the diversity and the heterogeneity of all the soils. But where is Château d'Isson on this map? Château d'Isson is on what we call the terrace number 4. Terrace number 4 is the thin line, purple line, close to the estuary. So Château d'Isson is right located there. You will see that in a few minutes. But something else that we realize, and my friend from Bordeaux also mentioned that, is that we are right, if you arrive with your GPS at Château d'Isson, right at the 45th.00 latitude north on the 45th parallel. And on the 45th parallel, it's Château d'Isson on the left bank, Pomerol on the right bank, Crozet-Hermitage, the Piedmont in Italy, Washington State. We spoke about it with some of you last night. So a perfect place for balanced wine. And actually, we are doing a little experimentation. I'm breaking news in here, but we just, as being curious, we have planted on limestone soil some clay, Roussanne, Marsanne, Viognier, and Vermentino. We have to say roll in France now, but that's part of the game. So we'll see in 2024 the first vintage. But breaking the rules, but no, we are now, you can see when we focus on the map, you can see the Clos of Dissan. And what happened in 2020, the Cruse family and the Lorenzetti family had one opportunity. They didn't want to extend the vineyard, but they had one opportunity that happened once in your life, or one in the life of the chateau, is to have 7 hectares, additional 7 hectares, on the same line of, on the same terrace, just next to our vineyard, so completely aligned. And if we take a little bit of height, and this will be for talking about your 2020 vintage that you have in front of you, this is, you can see the influence of the estuary, we like that, helping us to avoid being impacted sometime by the frost. And the Clos of Dissan is where we produce Chateau Dissan and Blason Dissan that some of you have tried in the past days. So if we zoom to the end of the Clos, and you have a slope also, it's 5 meters here above the sea level, it's about 20 on the top. And here, so this is the end of the Clos, and I'm going to show you now where are located our new 7 hectares, right here. And you probably all recognize the church, and this famous alley just next to it is the alley of Chateau Margaux. So we are completely aligned, and these new plots are a direct link between our historical vineyard and the historical vineyard of Chateau Margaux. So, but this is not only the funny story. Now it's getting a little bit more funny with the small plots here. The line is Petit Verdot planted in 1948. And we did massal selection since then to put it in the Clos. We have also limestone, where you have Cabernet Franc now, planted in 58. And you have the big surprise for all of us, I think, Emmanuel, you can witness on that, is Malbec. Malbec was very famous in Bordeaux. Now, to be honest, at the beginning we were thinking, okay, we will get rid of it and replace it. But in 2020, the vintage you have in front of you, we have all been very happily surprised. You want to mention something? Yeah. It's, in fact, when we do the blind tasting, all the team is there, all the bottles are blind. Only Mr. Eric knows what is inside the bottles. And we were all saying, oh my God, it's very good, very aromatic. Let's put it straight to the first wine. And when we all agree on that, and we started to see Eric with a little smile, thinking already in his mind, okay, are you sure you want to get rid of this plot? Because it might be quite interesting. And when we finish the blend in front of you is 1% of Malbec. It seems nothing, but it's not marketing. When you do the blend, 1%, I mean, with or without this 1% of Malbec, it's not the same wine. And Eric Boissneau told Emmanuel also, saying, perhaps it can be also an interesting grape to look at for the coming years. Perhaps we get rid of it afterwards, but with global warming, it might be interesting. And again, 2022, we finished the blend a few weeks ago now, and it's 2% of the blend. So the varietal you mentioned earlier on. And talking about the nature, we have a very old map. You know that Issa is a very old estate, but 18th century, as you can see, we have completely respected the land. We have these 50 hectares of polyculture that really bring us all the biodiversity that we need to balance the vineyard. And because we end with the anecdote, of course, I was talking about 1626, but in fact, Issa dates back to the 12th century. 2 seigneuries, La Motte-Cantenac, which became Chateau d'Issan, and La Motte-Margaux, which became Chateau Margaux. So the 2 oldest estates in Margaux are Chateau Margaux and Chateau d'Issan. And in fact, the stories say that the Aliénor of Aquitaine, Duchess of Aquitaine, married first the King of France, divorced the King of France, I will make the story short, and got married again with another handsome man called Henry Plantagenet, who became King of England. So this young lady has been first Queen of France and then Queen of England. So, but when she married him, Bordeaux and all the southwest of France became British. And the wine that they had for their wedding back in May 18th of 1152 was the wine coming from the terroir of Chateau d'Issan, La Motte-Cantenac at that time. So that's why we have a very, you know that French are very humble. I think you all agree on that, right? Yeah. So we have a very big motto, which is written and engraved above the stone of the door of the chateau here. It's written in Latin, Regum mensis arisque deorum, which is on every label of Chateau d'Issan, which means, very humbly, simply, for the table of the kings and the altar of the gods. Make it simple, right? It's not from you, Emmanuel. Time for tasting.
Well, thank you very much, Augustin. Of course, you have to compare these two vintages of Chateau d'Issan. The first comment I would like to do is that we all have in mind the texture, the velvety texture, and sometimes we try to sometimes to sum up a little bit too quickly what is the style of the wine in one appellation, and I wouldn't say that there is one kind of Margaux, but probably different style of Margaux. For me, Chateau d'Issan.
Just the wine is 16 on your left and 20 on your right.
Yeah. So the right question, the question you have to have in mind is really a Margaux so gentle on the youth? Of course, through 15 or 20 years, sometime you can recognize them blind because it doesn't show the same argument and the same spiciness and not the same structure of tannin than a Pauillac or a Saint-Estèphe as we had the chance to taste earlier. But on the youth, to be honest, in a blind taste, I wouldn't say this is so gentle. The 2016 has a kind of beginning of evolution as well. We could ask why there's less Cabernet Sauvignon in this 2020 than it used to have in the 2016. Of course, we were talking about Cabernisation, but as Augustin mentioned, you have more Petit Verdot and you have more Malbec. And behind this strategy, we will ask probably the team. The goal, of course, is to keep some freshness, some acid structure, probably a deeper fruit, something but more punchy, and you feel it through the 2020, definitely. So we could probably ask the team if or some few comments on the vision, because of course.
No, but for the 2020, it was also the idea was to add a little bit more complexity, and it's not very clever, but as soon as you blend only 2 varietals or 5 instead of 2, you add more complexity in your blend, that's for sure. So even if it's only 55% of Cabernet Sauvignon, it's still a good amount of Cabernet Sauvignon because we also have to add Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, and Malbec for the first time.
Okay, and what about the vision into the aging as well? Because as we mentioned, the 2020 has another expression of toast, another expression of spiciness due to the wood. What is the reflection behind?
Yes, just and 2020 was a great year for Merlot, anyway. Yeah. And Eric, so I'm taking the mic because with the English, but correct me if I'm wrong. But in fact, when we were tasting the vats of Merlot after the harvest, we were realizing blind. You could think it's Cabernet. That's the other option. The other thing, Manuel, it's that really blind in the vats. The Merlot were very structured, so very interesting. Almost again blind Cabernet, and that's one of the reasons. And it was a great year for all of us, for Merlot especially, and the year after more Cabernet. But and in terms of aging, for all of us, the idea is to respect the fruit as much as possible, and to only at Chateau d'Issan it's only 50% of brand new oak and 50% of wine oak, in order to really maintain the freshness, the balance, and respect the fruit.
Great. This is 5 to 15, so we decided to probably leave you the mic and to probably ask some question if you have more interrogation on the wines.
Yeah, and just before the question, so for all these estates, as a summary, we work in details to gain in precision. And when we tasted the wine with Manuel, we thought it was interesting to start with 16 and follow with the 20, to see that Bordeaux is also continuously working and questioning itself. And of course, we want, with all this wine, we hope we made a lot of new friends, because this is the objective. And we wanted also to take this opportunity to congratulate all the candidates today, all the volunteers, all the sponsors and suppliers, and the team of the organization. Wishing all the best for the 17 candidates. And it's time for the final. I'm not talking about the rugby game, which will start in 15 minutes, Ireland against France. But Jackie Lorenzetti, who owns this estate and owns with Emmanuel Château d'Isson, also have a rugby team. And you all see his stadium right in the heart of Paris, La Défense Arena. It's where the final will take place, with probably the largest screen on the planet, 3,000 square meters. So getting ready. And if you have, of course, any questions, want to find the wines or anything, feel free to contact all of us. And yes, if you have questions, let's do it.
Could you please just explain? No, it's could you please just say how was the correct order of the wines? In which glass was which?
Okay, number one, Lilian Ladouise, 16. We do the circle. Number 2, Chateau Lilian Ladouise, 20. Number 3, Chateau Lafont Rocher, 16. Number 4, Chateau Lafont Rocher, 20. Number 5, Chateau Pédesclos, 16. 6, Pédesclos, 20. And then we, in the middle, from left to right, as we write, Chateau d'Isson 2016 and Chateau d'Isson 2020. Any other questions? Malbec?
Hi, so I was wondering if you could elaborate on a little bit closer what Eric Boissonneau has chosen to change or adjust throughout his consultancy.
About Eric Boissonneau? Eric Boissonneau has been in all of, at Château d'Isson since, first we had his father, Jacques Boissonneau, in 1995, and then his son came right after in this adventure at Château d'Isson. He's also, with Eric, decided at the beginning we were making only one wine, Château d'Isson. Then since 1994 we initiated to do a selection with Blason d'Isson and Château d'Isson. And after, when the family Lorenzetti arrived in Bordeaux with Vincent, they decided to, and with Emmanuel, to have Eric Boissonneau, who was not consulting at Lilian Ladouise and Pédesclos, to bring also his expertise and also its objectivity. Because it's always good to have somebody from outside. He's very specialist and he's making the blend for all the first growth, except one in Pessac, but all the first growth in the Médoc and most of the classified growth. So he has this expertise. And what we like with Eric Boissonneau is that when he's coming at the estate, he's trying to look the best, to make the best wine possible out of the terroir. So when you enter at Château d'Isson, he wants to make Château d'Isson wine. And the best wine. And at the end of the blend, we always realize that, yes, you are, when you close your eyes, you are at Château d'Isson, or you are at Château Pédesclos, or you are at Château Lilian Ladouise. And now, since 2020, that we have both of them on board, it's even more funny. Christophe, who also arrived, has already experienced only one vintage. The first vintage was 2021 for him. He used to know him very well because, as I mentioned, Christophe was 22 years at Lafite, and Eric Boissonneau is at Lafite too, and they were at the university together also, so they know very well each other. So it's really having the objectivity. And he's bringing, of course, precision, and helping us on the blend. And it's a gift. He has a gift in his palate. It's outstanding, and it was quite stressful during the COVID time, but I'm sure for him. But now it's back. It's behind us.
And I think we are quite well aware about the classic differences between the flavor of a Merlot and the flavor of a Cabernet Sauvignon. But I'm interested in hearing what, in your experience, would be the vinification differences between the two.
Entre le Cabernet et le Merlot.
Well, it's not
it's not big differences. I think the longevity of vatting that you can change, it's probably less long with Merlot than Cabernet Sauvignon. You have more alcohol in Merlot, so you have to have less extraction at the end of the fermentation. And I think the most important thing is about the peaking, the date of peaking. You know, Merlot, you have 1 day, 2 days to pick the right ripening. Cabernet Sauvignon, it's more easy to position. You will always have some freshness, some aromatic freshness in Cabernet Sauvignon. In Merlot, it can change very rapidly. That's why you have so much difference between 2016 and 2020. 2020, the Merlot could have gone a bit over-ripen. And we start harvesting in all the properties around the 15th of September in order to try to be al dente, you know, in the ripening, have sufficient ripening in the tannins and maintaining some freshness and some acidity. But about the vinification, it's not a big change. Thank you.
Thank you.
No more question? I have one question. Since we, in the Château d'Isson, observed that this little plot of Malbec came as a surprise in the blend, can we imagine that in the near future, this grape variety, which was really present in the Bordeaux region before the Phylloxera, could come back, even with, of course, with a massal selection of a high standard, not a productive one, but can we just think that this grape variety will be back in the coming years in the region? Of course, will the Cabernet Franc come back?
But yeah, Malbec, and we discussed that the other day, was also quite available on the right bank too, in some pretty good estates.
Petrus was planted in Malbec before 1865.
Voilà.
So
Malbec is great, but we discussed that many times with Eric and Emmanuel. It's good to really limit the yield, and during the pruning and preparing the vine, to have five bunch more or less per vine tree, around 35 hectoliters for the Malbec. But what is very interesting with Malbec is that, of course, it's again with global warming, it's or climate change, I should say, it might be very interesting. It's bringing the aromatic. That the Merlot also is bringing aromatic too, but a different kind of aromatic, so it's great. And I think we should stop from...
Thank you very much for your attention. We wish you... lovely afternoon, good match for people which will be look the match, and of course see you tomorrow for this great final. Thank you very much.